My name is Lizelle, and I'm the sales and customer service manager here at Highland Park Lapidary. We wanted to thank you again for tuning in with us. We appreciate your time and presence at tonight's event. Thank you as well to all our customers and followers that are streaming with us live on our YouTube channel. For those of you that are here tonight, we wanted to meet and acknowledge you all. So if you can update your name on the Zoom with your first and last name, we would really appreciate that. And also for those of you that are brand new in this call, please put new in the chat, and we wanted to welcome you. I see quite a lot of people that are, been present for the last 3 webinars that we had. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hello, John. Hello, Sandy. Hi, Arhal.
Hey, Arhal. So tell them how
hello.
they actually can change their name.
Yep. And Monroe, if you can give us your first and last name, we can update your name on the Zoom. Thank you so much. Welcome, guys, to our live webinar. I have a question to all of you that are here tonight. Who's new in cabbing? Put in the chat. Who are new in cabbing or who wanted to do cabbing? Who loves cabbing?
Chris is new. Who else is new? James is.
Pat is new. Yeah. Oh my God. There's a lot of people that loves cabbing. Who amongst you here wanted to do cabbing but doesn't have the cabbing set up yet? Doesn't have a cabbing machine, doesn't have a trim saw, they doesn't have the slabs, and they wanted to put their cabbing studio. Wow. All right. So we're gonna be able to help you on that. But before we go ahead and move, let's go ahead and share some success stories with our customers, or you might wanted to share what's going on in your studio right now. What are the good stuff that you are working on at the moment that you wanted to share? This is the community that, help and inspire a lot of lapidaries out there. So we wanted to have that shared with us. Anybody? Some volunteers? Or I can volunteer as well. I spoke to one customer, and one of our valued customer. I wanted to pull up Sandy more so she can share with us what's going on in her studio, what she's doing, and she loves cabbing and she loves Highland Park. Can we pull up Sandy?
Hey there, Sandy.
How are you?
Good seeing you.
Excellent. I'm thrilled to be here. Yeah, I was talking with Lizelle after I'd purchased some Turkish lapis lace. Mm-hmm. And she's fabulous. You got to keep her. Definitely makes a huge point in customer service, customer first. I've only really delved into the Highland Park family over the last maybe 5 months. I wasn't even sure, but then I found a Highland Park 12-inch slab saw for sale, and actually I stumbled on it and I had to buy it. I love it to pieces. It is an extremely great piece of equipment. Since then, I've bought some fluorite, some Lee Wan High.
Ludawan?
Yep, that one.
Yeah, Ludawan, yep.
Gorgeous. I've only opened 2 of them so far. My best friend, I'm teaching her how to use the saws. She's going to open the other two, but they're
Great.
gorgeous inside. Definitely worth it. And fluorite, the lace lapis, the Milgano jasper.
Maligano, yeah.
Yeah, Maligano.
Maligano.
Yeah.
Yeah, I pronounce just as well as you do this out.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
saying.
That's so awesome.
But no, I absolutely am amazed at the customer service you guys have, the support you have. I had a question about the saw. It was answered right away when I first got it. Very impressed overall.
Thank you so
And
much.
I started cabbing when I couldn't do woodworking anymore because I had good days and bad days. And my first thing I cabbed was a amethyst with my Dremel.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
That was extremely challenging. I did not know the proper safety precautions to take. I just ground away dry. Then I actually took a class, and that's what helped me the most. And I've been loving cabbing ever since. But then I had a bunch of rocks cabs that I had to do something with. So then my girlfriend said, well, let's try wire wrapping. We did. It was okay. Then we went to silversmithing, which is a lot more okay.
Yeah.
And so we're actually doing quite a bit of both cabbing and slabbing and silversmithing and just and it's all hobby. It is not professional at all.
Yeah. Hey, have you shared pictures of your stuff with us?
I don't think so.
Please do. Like, we love to feature people because it inspires new people to be able to feel comfortable and dive into it. And we're going to let's jump into our presentation with Russ here. But Sandy,
Perfect.
like I've been the one packing a lot of your rocks. So I see that rock order come in, and something I've just say to people, we carry a lot of rough rock. We're not really known for the rough rock, but some of the pieces that Russ will show, when we do those cabs like that, Koyamito is something that came from us as well.
Oh, yeah.
So certainly.
Yeah, we have a lot of content. So I think we
better dive in.
Yeah, we should start moving into that because Russ and I worked a lot this week on taking you through trimming and dopping and rough shaping. So I think there's one other thing to cover.
Why don't you bring John up here, please? Pin him.
Yep, we can go ahead and kick off our live webinar. Again, thank you so much, Sandy, for that. And, our topic tonight is about trimming, dopping techniques, and rough shaping of the stone. So John, Sherman, and Russ Kaniuth, we're going to be able to discuss that with us. So same drill, you can raise your hand if you have any questions by going through the reactions icon on the bottom of your Zoom and click raise hand, or you can also post your questions on the chat. So, all right, let's go ahead and kick this off with our intro video.
And you're gonna play every other video.
Yep.
All right, we are live here.
A writer for Rock and Gem magazine, Sunset Ridge Lapidary art owner. So let's please welcome Russ Kaniuth.
Yeah, we got some cool video, people. Thank you, guys. So super thrilled to have Russ here with us. Russ, as for some of you who were new to this call, we did a previous webinar last week with Russ. Now, will that be up on any of our channels there, guys? I assume it will, Mark.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's going to be up. So that content's going to be up. If you when you sign up for this, then what we'll do after the videos are edited is then we'll send those out to you. So go back to the previous slide there. So anyway, okay. Oh, it's on the tube. Sandy says it's already up there. That's great. So the first part of this is going to be kind of presentation. Then we're going to dive into Q&A. We always tend to go later than 8 Eastern time. So we're probably going to be in questions. And we also, if we don't cover your question here, we'll try to write it down and then get back on those questions as well. So thank you for joining us. Why don't we go ahead to the next slide with just a little bit of overview of Russ. Russ, really gracious to spend our time with us. He does not get paid to do this at all. This is entirely voluntary with his passion to really help people on cabbing. And of course, he's for those of you who may not know Russ, he's got the Cabs and Slab Facebook group, also the Sunset Ridge, and then the Sunset Ridge Lapidary. And he writes each month an article in Rock and Gem magazine as well, which you've been doing that for how long, Russ?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think about 6 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great. Well, cool.
Been a lot of fun.
Let's turn it over to you guys. It's gonna be primarily John and Russ talking through this.
All right. So, is there anyone that doesn't know what a cabochon is? Or is everybody knows what a cabochon is? Because
I wouldn't assume everybody knows.
yeah, so
you might just want to
basically
somebody be shy not to raise their
basically
hand.
we're gonna show you some pictures of cabochons. There's really 2 styles of cabochons. I mean, I'm sure there's more than this, but because I've seen lots of different styles, but there's primarily 2 types of cabochons that get cut. What I call, can you, your screen share is blocking the text on that.
Yeah, make that screen share, drag that thing out of the way. Drag the thing out of the way.
There we go. So, and this may be my lingo, but I always like calling the full dome style old fogey style, because if you were going to the rock shows back in the 1970s, every cab looked like this. Nobody was cutting girdled cabs really back then. The most popular was this style. And a lot of the settings had like prongs on them, so it was less of an issue. So Russ, why don't you speak to the 2 styles of cutting and why you would have 2 different styles and the advantages and disadvantages of each style?
Well, I think before cutting any cab, you probably should consider the source of where it's going. Is this going to a wire wrapper? Is this going to a silversmith? It can better help you figure out exactly how you want to design that cab. There's a lot of times, like, me, for instance, I auction, so I don't know where they're going. So I try and come up with a universal fit that will, definitely work for both. That old fogey style, I mean, I don't ever do it myself. We originally learned putting a girdle on them.
Well, what I've seen is there's more ring stones. The small ring stones are more cut like that than girdled. Yeah. A lot of the reason being why is that the settings are a little different. And so if you look at older jewelry that was made, a lot of it had the 4 prongs that would just go against the edge of the stone, where a full dome isn't as much of an issue. But with, like your point with the silversmithers, that if they set a bezel and then burnish the edge of the bezel over to capture the cab, because you make your bezel and the silver on the sides is sticking straight up, and you take a burnisher and you roll it over. Well, if you're burnishing on the old fogey style, as I call it, and you push just a little hard on the edge of that silver, what happens is that silver will bulge out a little bit. And when you look at the setting from the front, that's the line of the silver won't look perfect. And that's one of the reasons why the silversmithers love the girdled style, because the silver never rolls over the top of the stone. So for the burnishing, it gets really easy, because it's very hard to screw it up if you are burnishing just a little heavy, because it won't mash that silver out and then get into the visual area of the front of the stone.
Yeah. The other thing too is, wire wrappers, they definitely like having something on the sides to, of course, grip onto. If they had that old style, that would really be a nightmare, actually. I've actually tried it a few times, and it's really tough, because there's really nothing to grip on when you're trying to, putting those wires around the side, getting a hold of it, and
retaining the stone is a problem.
Yeah.
So let's talk about quality of cabs, because you'll see a lot of things posted on Facebook or Instagram, and so I went through and just pulled out some examples of cabochons that are most of these were from websites being sold, and basically what I wanted to kind of point out, if we look at like the top left piece, it's not polished. It looks like the person has pretty good skill in shaping the piece. Their shape is symmetrical. I'm not sure they chose the prettiest rock to do, but they have no polish on it. Then the second one is actually a really nice stone, but the cutting on it, you can see how the lines are lumpy. It doesn't look well shaped at all. The stone has potential, but the way that it's cut, it makes it, kind of a rubbishy piece. Then the third one is really a beautiful stone, but the choice of the shape, it's kind of like a blob. And while some people may like, a free form shape, if you're making a piece and you want to actually have it have a higher value, this would not be the shape, to make. And then the stuff I call rubbish. This is the stuff on this is a sodalite cab, and they're supposed to be calibrated cabs, but you can look at them and see they're all different sizes. The shape of the oval is not good. They're not symmetric. The cabs, two of the cabs in the middle have like fracture lines in them. This is the stuff that people will complain about, that has like that's predominant, being sold for like $10 a piece on the web or something, or maybe even cheaper sometimes. Making all the effort to make a jewelry piece with a stone like this is pretty much a waste of time. And then on the right, which is what I call a full crown cut, a little bit more of the, I can't tell, is that a girdled cab or is that?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay. So that really illustrates the difference between, both material selection. Although if you look at the one really brilliant blue piece, it's maybe Shattuckite or a chrysocolla there. It has the potential to be a really great cab, but basically it illustrates how much different a cab can be if it's cut well, and that translates to its value. So go to the next slide there. So Russ, why don't you speak to this?
Well, I mean, a lot of these are getting out. I mean, I try and pick different shapes that are more crowd pleasing, some more asymmetrical and some free forms. And I try and pick portions of the stone to actually design with. To me, it's not anything different than painting a picture. You can look at the malachite heart there. That's actually my son, Ben. He picked a piece with that druzy bug in there. And you could probably think back about 15 years or more. And most people, if they would have saw that would have been considered a flaw and they probably would have tossed it. And now, in this new age, we embrace that and we design around it. And, each piece here is trying to utilize what Mother Nature's basically given us and using the design of the stone and trying to capture the best framing for it that would look, elegant as a jewelry piece.
It really, when I see well-cut cabs, it really illustrates like the amount of time it takes to actually make a good cab versus making something that's really not as satisfying is pretty much the same.
Yeah. I mean, doing the cabbing process. Yeah, absolutely.
So Joanna, let's go and start. Stop sharing screen. Yeah. So does that kind of give people ideas about like everybody talks about quality, but I was sitting there looking, I went on Facebook and I was going through different cabbing groups and I was looking at a lot of what was getting posted. And unfortunately, I would say 40% of what I saw had like mostly issues with either the way the material was selected and positioned in the cab, or that the cutting quality was really not there. And so that's part of what we really want to help everyone that follows our webinars. We want to help people do that, because if you can make a really great piece, it's a lot more satisfying and a lot more fulfilling. And if you are doing like I did when I started the hobby, where I would make a few pieces and sell a few pieces, and the pieces I would sell would be the money for my next rock, that if you can make better pieces, you're going to get more money for them. And that means you get more rock. And of course, that's the goal, is you got to get more rock.
Of course.
So if there's no questions right now, let's go into trim sawing. Go ahead, Joanna.
So we're going to do a little introduction to the trim saw. I know we spoke about this last week. I got a couple different ones here. We got this little 4 up here, and we got the 10-inch here. Now, the 10, in my own personal opinion, really is the necessary, needed piece of equipment for lapidary when you're doing cabbing. This really is the workhorse. Tonight, I chose a piece of, fluorite from Finland. And, as you can see, it's about a palm-sized piece. And, I wouldn't go much bigger than this usually. And then for the rest of the time, we'd use this to be able to cut out our preforms on much bigger slabs. As you can see over here, you're much limited on the deck space on how big of a slab you could put in there. So let me just demonstrate real quick on how to, how to get the slab out. And we're going to go about a 1/4 inch. I'm going to eyeball this one. I don't think it's really needed to mark this one out. For the video, I'm not going to wear my mask, but I am going to wear my eye guards. When you're hand cutting, you don't want to push too hard. You don't want to bog down the motor. Let the blade do its job. The more you push, the quicker you're going to burn out your blade, and the quicker you're going to burn out your motor. My fingers. It's going real slow. I mean, basically, you can touch these blades and not worry about getting cut unless you, of course, leave your hands on the blade. And there we go. All right, so.
Do you want to go to the next video?
Yeah, I think we go into the next video and then we'll discuss this some.
So here's the slab that we just cut out. I just freeformed a few.
Get it zoomed up there.
All right, so here's the slab that we just cut out. I just freeformed a few cab shapes here. So a lot of times with these little saws, you can pretty much line up the blade and, go in between the pieces without knocking out your own lines. Some people, they like to actually go in there with a ruler and actually mark out where they're going to make their cuts. Sometimes it's not a bad idea, given where the blade to follow. As you can see, I was working with a fracture here, so that's why I just kind of deducted this piece over here. So basically, we're going to make a few relief cuts, and then we're going to trim out our shapes. Now, if this were an agate, I might want to go in and trim off maybe a little bit more so that I'm not grinding quite as much on the wheels. But this is fluorite, it's real soft, so I'm going to let that one go. Towards the end of your cut, you really want to slow down real slow so it doesn't blow out a big chunk. to the end. You can barely hear it. It's slowing down. There we go. Nice even cut. So, and there you have it, ready for the cabbing machine.
So one of the things that Russ talks about in this video that's really important is, and you can hear him mention it a few times if you're listening, is that as he's trimming the slab out, when he gets close to the end of the cut, he lightens up his touch. He does not pushing so hard, because if you push hard right at the end of that cut, then it can fracture off the tip of your cab or break out a big chunk of the material and mess up your piece. And that's a little bit of a thing that is kind of feel as you do more and more of it. It's more challenging if you're cutting agate, or if you're cutting agate that is a little opalitic. But again, it comes back to keeping your blade sharp, and then, you know, practice.
All right, you want to go to another?
Kathy actually asked good questions here. Most of the cabs have sharp points. Can silversmiths work with that, or should that be more rounded? You want to speak to that, Russ?
It depends on the silversmith, actually. Most of them do ask for it to be a little bit rounded over and not completely sharp, because of the way the silver is going to wrap around the stone. Most silversmiths who are seasoned veterans, they know how to work that. Otherwise, it kind of leaves a buckle over. It kind of bubbles up, actually, if you've seen examples of it. So yeah, again, this is knowing beforehand, even before, putting the stone on a dop stick, where is this stone gonna go? Right. But if you don't know and you're trying to kind of universally fit it to anybody, put a little bit of a round on it. Doesn't have to be, a huge round over, but at least something.
So Ron's wondering if you're using water or oil
on the saws.
Yeah.
Honestly, since we're using recycling on that particular 10-inch, I use water. We'll just take it out and hose the whole thing off and put it back up on the bench. I'm not getting as much saw wear out of it that I could be. I don't know if anybody was noticing, I kind of throw the blades up on the wall behind us, all the used ones. So yeah, you can kind of see how much we go through, but that's just kind of part of the process. Using some water stabilizers in there, the lubricants are always good. For as much as we cut in kind of the mess, I'd rather kind of stick to the water on that particular saw only. If I'm going to go and jump up to my 12, 14, or 18, all oil, but those are all also covered. They all have the lid that goes over them. In this particular case, when you're hand cutting, and you can see how much mess that you're making, it's all over the wall, and it's even because of the design of this particular machine, it's butted up right against the cabbing machine, and I really don't want all the oil getting in there. Because then it just, water and oil on moving parts, it just starts to foam up. So right. Yeah, that's the only reason I use water. Otherwise, I would suggest at least a lubricant.
Uh-huh. Yeah, trim saws are more forgiving about running water. All right, so we've trimmed out our pieces. Let's get into the roughing. So Joanna, give us that, and then we may pause you partway through as there's questions. And for all of our listeners, for all of you all, if you have any questions as we're going through this, throw them up, and we will do our best to answer them.
Hey, last week during the webinar, we had a few questions about particularly cabbing parts and how to do the cleavage, and a little bit about doming these hearts and the utilization of some of the different wheels. So I figured, we'll give you a little bit of a hands-on view, and I'm going to have Ben here cut this one up and see if we can't show you a hands-on view of how we do this, and we'll go from there. And if you got questions, we could bring them up while we're filming these here. Alright, so here Ben is going around the side of the wheels here. This is how he's starting to cut that cleavage in. You go from one side to do one ear, and then you go over to the other side and cut into the other ear, and you go right down into that little V without going too far. You keep checking your work, and you got to flip it over, making sure that you're doing it even. And if you start showing maybe a little bit of flat spots, just ever so slightly, the bottom edge is really the most important. So if he turns it over right now, like he's doing, and brings it right over here to the green 60 wheel, he can clean up that bottom real quick then through that cleavage. So it's just nice and smooth. And now the template of your cab is basically ready to go, and it's time to start doming on the 80. Before Ben goes any further, as you can see, he's got his pretty form nicely cleanly cut out. I'm going to show you one little trick somebody taught me once upon a time, and this is the importance why having that 1/4 inch slab comes in handy. You can take a regular Sharpie that's, been a little used on the tip, not completely brand new. And that little plastic edge where the felt comes out, if you watch carefully, you can butt it right up against your cab and just run that all the way around. And the plastic actually runs along the edge of the stone. So now you got a nice, neat, about a 2.5 to 3 millimeter girdle. So he's going to start doming all the way down to that line. Now you're going to think, well, there's ink there, but it's going to get cleaned up along the way. So let's watch and see him dome this one. Alright, so right now what Ben is doing is he's starting out with the profile and he's picking up this angle, shifting the top, but not completely doming it yet. He's going to go all the way around and meet that black line on the bottom. Okay, now that he's got that angle already in there, now he's going to start smoothing things out, and it's going to look more like this. And as you can see in this little diagram, if you can't really tell, there's still going to be a little bit of a flat spot on top after he starts rounding stuff over. Not to worry about that. That is definitely going to come off on the next wheel real quick. Okay, so here's where Ben's at right now. As you can see, he's all the way down to that black line. He's got the dome started, but the top, as you can see, has still got some flat spots going on, which is to be anticipated right now coming off that 80 steel. So the very top has got a little bit of a flat spot, just like I was saying. So now we're going to go on to the green wheel right there. That's a 60 soft resin grit. You're going to see exactly how quick this is going to work and how well. Always go in circular fashion. You don't want to embed a long line in your cab, that scratch would be really difficult to get out in the long run. So always go in circles and try and utilize the entire wheel from side to side. So let's see what you got, Ben. Oh yeah, that's looking nice already. Barely any flat spots at all. And you can watch Ben right now. He's going to go and take that black line off in 2 seconds with this 60 grit. Now, right now, he's going straight up and down, but when he moves up to the next wheel, he's going to put it at just a tiny bit of an angle, so it angles towards the center of the cab, giving the girdle just a bit of an angle for the bezel setting. So the next one we have here, this yellow one, this is actually a 140 soft resin grit. From here, this is really where it's going to take the majority of the scratches out. You'll no longer get any more flat spots or anything else from here on in. As you can see, he went in and out of the cleavage, but he didn't really do much blending yet. You really don't want to do too much blending of the cleavage just yet on these harsher grits. Go around and clean up your girdle right there on both sides. All the way around. This is already ready to set. So from here on in, it's just doing a little bit of sanding in the same tradition that you were doing. Go right to the 280 and then to the 600, and you probably finish off somewhere around the 14,000.
All right. So how did everybody like that? Is that a helpful video for you guys watching? Or did everybody fall asleep?
Just put yes in the comments.
Everyone fell
I
asleep.
think there's a lag.
There you go.
Yeah. Russ's son, Ben, makes it look easy, doesn't he?
Well, he's got plenty of practice by now.
Good, good. And now he wants to make hearts. So let's yeah, the 16140 are soft wheels.
Yes.
And we offer all the ranges of soft wheels now. We got a big shipment coming finally. It took me forever to get that product where I wanted it before I bring it.
You want to go to a Q&A?
Well, we got the one more video on the dopping.
Yep.
Let's show that. It's not
okay. Last week we talked about dop sticks and dop stations and the difference between the two. You know, I personally like hand cabbing most of the time. I originally did learn both ways, and I kind of chose to stick with my hands, but there definitely are benefits of doing both ways. So there are pros and cons. So tonight I'm going to demonstrate on John Rowland's new dop stick here, and I cut out a piece of fluorite from the same one we used off the trim saw, and you know what? I just put a random piece on there that was actually an end cut, so we don't know what we're going to get. I'm going to do this on the fly. So all we have to do is stick this in. Tighten it down. And with the dop stick, we're going to start on the 80. And I think I'm just going to go for a little bit of a fat teardrop shape. And I'm going to start around my edges first. Now I'm holding the dop stick with my right hand as I'm guiding it with my left. Got our shape already set up. So now I'm just going to go back and I'm going to start doing the dome now. So here's where the big of a difference is, where you have to maneuver your hands if you were hand capping in all different directions. With the stick you get a little less manipulation, probably saves you a lot on carpal tunnel as well, and you do have a lot of maneuvering with it. So take out the angle. I still want this hand up close to give it stability and maneuver it around while I'm able to turn with my right hand. There's the start of it. Now we put the dome. You see, we're pretty close to there. There's a few flat spots to take out. And I'm just going to move it right on over to the 60. Taking shape. So I'm going to do one more wheel to get an idea. And I'm going to start my girdle now. This was a softer material, so I didn't want to go on the coarse strips. Wait until I get to the 140 to clean it up. As you can see, it's nice and clean now. Got a nice dome going. Got great edges, nice and clean. I mean, this thing's pretty much almost done. It's just a matter of getting it polished. You know, John made a great adjustable size here. So the handle you can adjust in and out to your machine. Some machines might not have quite a deep of bay, so you want to move that handle a little bit more so it's not going to bottom out on you. And you know, it's got that nice grip up front too, so it's really nice. And you know, like I said, Dopping really has its advantages. You can see really how quick I had going through the wheels and how much control that I had as well. Other shapes, possibly like hearts, might be a little bit more difficult to do, but all in all, you should try both methods and probably learn both, because they can, you can use them for different applications along the way.
That was
great.
awesome, Russ. You like the master.
Russ
There
is
was a
the
couple
master.
questions people were wondering about in terms of what was how did we adhere the stone to the dop stick there, Russ?
Well, I you know, discussing with John, I've heard different methods of what people use, and I'm with John. It's just, you know, really quick, one little drop of super glue is really all you need. You don't need to go overboard, so it's not, you know, oozing out all over the place. I've tried Gorilla Glue in the past just to try it. That seems to love to expand and go all over the place, and of course then it obstructs your vision of what you're doing. I'm not a fan of dop wax. You know, cold weather, you lose more stones falling off the dop stick than not. So, you know, literally just one drop of glue, you set the screw right on top of your stone on a flat surface, come back in a couple hours, it should be ready to go. And, you know, it's pretty quick and easy.
And what were the stones that you would avoid doing like cyanoacrylic on? Because certainly there's going to be some materials where that's not going to be as applicable.
Well, being the fact that we use acetone to get it off, I wouldn't suggest any type of a porous material that it would soak in and ruin your stone. Turquoise definitely being one. I would never do turquoise. You don't put turquoise in acetone. There's probably a few others that I wouldn't. I mean, opals either. That would be a no-no. But for the majority of lapidary, agates, and jaspers, this is perfect for it.
Right.
So on the opals and the turquoise, if you use the cyanoacrylic, how would you best remove that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I might actually consider dop wax as a possibility, because, you know, put it in the freezer for ever so slightly. You know, with opals, it's always touch and go no matter what you do. You certainly don't want to freeze it. With turquoise, not a problem. You throw it in the freezer, they come off in just a matter of minutes. That would probably be the only application I would probably use dop wax for.
Right. Right. Well, we've got a bunch of questions coming up here as well. And why don't you want to jump into some of these questions, because we've been capturing them as we
let's
go.
do questions.
So we had a question. Actually, Sandy was asking on when you were showing the stones on that bottom row of the beautiful stones that you did, what were those materials? Do you remember, Ross? I know one of them was that Koyamito you got from us.
Yeah, just put the slide back up, Joanna.
Throw that slide back up, Joanna.
Of the nice finished stones.
Oh yeah, John also said the Loctite Extreme mounting tape. Yeah, John, I saw your video on that. I haven't tried that, but that looks interesting. So I'll
actually just go through. So Russ, just go through all the stones to tell people what they are from the
Sure.
top.
Well, the top left there, the top left, that is actually a Cherry Creek from China. That was a real nice material. You never know what you're going to get with that. Every slab's always different. In that case, I was lucky to be able to capture 3 of the main colors in one shot. The middle one, I think
we also have that in stock too, don't we, John? I think you shipped me some of that over from China.
Yeah, we do.
I got that in stock.
Yeah, that middle one, the middle top, that was a pseudomorph Koyamito that I got from you guys. And yeah, that was kind of actually a tough one to let go. I kind of wanted to keep it for myself. It was a beautiful stone. The next one is the malachite with some nice pluming going on there, and that druzy bug that Ben cut. Down below, all over on the left, that first one is Ben's. That's cobalite from Butte, Montana, from the Leonard mine. You know, that's always a fun one to experience cutting. It's quite the mess. The next one over, that is from Idaho. That's a chalice plume agate. I really love that material. It's, you know, it's like no other ones. It's got that really delicate seafoam green and the gold trim to it. The one over came from Philip Stevenson. That's one of his newer ones. That's the Red Falcon. That's a beautiful stone. It's not like the old Awahis. This one, you actually, when you're cutting through the stone, it's not on the surface. It goes all the way through, and you know the pattern starts changing ever so slightly with each cut, but you get a lot of it. So it's really nice. The last one there, that is Laguna lace agate. One of my more favorite ones. That's always a popular material to cut, and you know, that was towards the edge of the slab where it would have been the top portion of the stone of the seam that was coming out, and you know, I was able to capture a few orbs in there, and I really like that type of design.
Yep. And we had a couple people, Russ, that were just wondering what water additive were you using on your trim saw? You'd mentioned that, and some people were curious about that.
You know, I don't remember the brand offhand. It just comes in a little tiny bottle that you put in 1 to so many parts water. That saw doesn't really hold much water to begin with. I would doubt it's a gallon to begin with. So you really use very much. It's probably 1 to 10.
Yeah. We don't typically, in our cutting operation, we don't typically put any additives in the water, the saws we're running water on, because we're just dumping them. We dump them. In fact, I think most of the production trim saws we do in our cutting factory, we're just flow through straight out. We're not even having a reservoir.
All PTs we run in the factory flow through.
Yeah. All right. And then let's see. Rick was asking about polishing. Rick, we're going to be actually going deep into polishing next week. So stay tuned. We're going to be talking about polishing process. That was Rick up there in, I think, Oregon or Washington. He and I've talked plenty of time, but that Rick, we'll hit that next week. And then I don't understand that question. Secret for removing super glue, acetone. Wari was asking about that. And let's see. Yeah, Dan, yeah, for Opal, we talked about the cyanide credit. That's not what you want to use on that. And then Daryl and Lori was asking, why not do the 60 or 140 on hard wheels? Versus...
Yeah, that's a great question. Russ, why don't you speak to that?
Well, on hard wheels, it's the same thing. You're getting away from the 80 going to the 60 because it's the manipulation of the stone. You're still dealing with the flat spots and everything else from a hard surface, as to where when you get to the 60, it's got that little bit of a give to where you could push it in, and it's conforming to the dome of your cab. So it's actually sanding in that dome. So you're alleviating that whole step of trying to get those flat spots and extra scratches out once you do reach the other soft wheels. You're starting early, and it's such a as you saw in the video, that 60 is kind of a miracle wheel. I love it without question.
Yeah. Well, and also like in the sphere cutting area, John, I mean, like some people get confused in sphere cutting, and I want to take it too off, but like a 400 metal bond is going to cut very different than a resin. Even though it's technically the same diamond, the way that performs is going to be quite different. A centered wheel or a plated wheel versus a soft wheel, even if the
dynamics are a little bit different there, though, because if you're cutting spheres with like a diamond poly cup, the cup is not flexing, where with the soft wheel, the wheel's flexing. And like Russ was pointing out, if you go from your 80 grit hard wheel and go into a 60 soft, then your blending capability is way, way, way better on that 60 soft to take all those little flat facets and smooth them together. Where like, if you look at the cabbing setups that Russ and I both learned on, where you're running silicon carbide wheels, you really ended up, you know, going through every single grit, working on all the little facets that show up on each hard wheel. And it took a lot longer. The Nova wheels, or the soft resin type wheels, just really cut the time down.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Are you guys liking this like drilling down kind of questions here? Put like yes in there if you're kind of liking this discussion. Azalea, I know you. Good to see you here. So Doug had a question here, and I'm just going to re-speak what he said. He says, I was retaught in the last couple of years to cut the bevel in a series of steps. First 45 degrees to the girdle, then decreasing steps 30 and 15 and so on towards the crown. And then the random motion way Russ does it to smooth it out. I used to do it entirely his way. Any opinions on which is better? You know, because what I'm understanding, what Doug's saying is you're doing these kind of cuts and then smoothing it versus going directly into smoothing it, if I'm understanding that correctly.
Not sure.
Doug says that's exactly right. Any opinion on that, Russ or John? You both have done a ton of cabs.
Yeah.
Not sure if I follow along on that one.
Well, let's just pull Russ.
Well, he's coming in on the angle and steps rather than how you guys approach it. Here's what I would say. I mean, you know, like in any time we're teaching a topic like cabbing, there are tons of opinions. There's lots of different opinions. There's lots of different styles for cutting. I've watched people, you know, like some people are pure Dopp and some people are pure freehand and some people do some of both. It's learning what is the most comfortable and effective for you. Like, we're going to show you the techniques that we really feel are the best for us, but everybody will do, like, you watch different people cut, they do things a little bit differently. So I wouldn't say there's like the one right way or wrong way on this kind of thing. It comes down to what feels best for you after you learn all the basics. And always the results. You can't argue with the results.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, cabbing still is an artistry, and everybody's going to have their own flair and their own take and their own creativity that they put to it. It's just like a guitarist; they're going to have their own sound, you know. But it is good to still go in and not just learn from maybe just one teacher. You know, if you have the ability to, you know, even watch different people and what they're doing on YouTube, and maybe go to a different clubs or having a few different people show you a few different things, you can kind of make up your own route along the way. There's some things you could take away from one teacher and some you could take away from another teacher. In the end, I mean, it's not a complicated thing, and there's not, I mean, there is a right way and a wrong way, but there's a lot of variations in between. And again, it's like you guys are saying, just find what you feel is most comfortable for you.
Right. You know, there's a couple of questions around just grit sequences for wheels. Rick was asking this about what wheels do you suggest? He says, I have an 80 and 220 steel, then 280, 600, 1800, 3000, and then go to diamond spray on moleskin, 8K, 14K, 50, 100K. I know we touched on grit a little bit in the first webinar in cabbing. You want to review any kind of standards? Because I know, if you know, harder stones versus softer stones, Russ or John.
Yeah, Russ, go ahead and speak to that.
Well,
Like, what's your main setup, Russ?
well, right now, I usually start on an 80, and from the 80, it's really my only steel hard wheel. I try and keep a little bit of everything up there that I can. I even have one, and I keep it on the end that's generally not used, but I keep an end with a self-expando so that I can utilize silicon carbide belts, because it's in its own bay and it won't contaminate the water going for the other side, the other wheels that are running diamond. And every wheel can be utilized for the type of material you're using. Like on, if you're going to be doing turquoise, I would still want to start with an 80 so you get a nice clean cut shape, but I probably wouldn't hit it on the 60. I would maybe go straight to the 140 and then to the 280. So right now my setup would be an 80 steel and soft resin all the way across the board. So I go 60, 140, 280. And then on the polishing end of it, I go, 600, 1200. I have an 8,000, but sometimes that is not always used. It gets jumped, and then I go to the 14,000. From there, then it's just a matter of which polishing methods I want to use and compounds and whatnot. Sometimes that would be the end all, is the 14,000.
Yep. And we'll be next week, we're going to be digging into polishing, so that you guys are going to see some of Russ's whole approaches for different types of polishing there. Great question there, Rick. Let's see. Teresa Rose was asking on a CB8 with 6 wheels, are there preferred or better choices to the grid each wheel? I mean, part of that, Teresa, comes, we tend to run a couple of metal wheels. I mean, Russ is just using an 80. I think a lot of
I think if you're cabbing, Russ's setup is pretty ideal, where he goes from the 80 metal to a 60 soft, and then 140, 280, 600, like he just described. That's for somebody who's like really looking at cabbing, that's what I would start with on a CB8.
Yep. Let's see. What is the best way to remove grooving? Cindy was asking that. Cindy Ferries. Are you talking scratches on the cab? Yeah, she's talking scratches. Best way to removing scratches on the cab there. Russ, I think it gets back to your grit sequence.
Well, I think I'll tell you what, I think this one we're going to get into. I'll speak to a little bit of what I think is in play here, because I know I've seen this problem coming up before, and we'll get into it in polishing, that some of the cheap wheels that are getting sold that come over from China, that they're like not controlling the process, they're not using really good practices, and they'll get contamination in the resin bond wheel. And then you'll be picking up these random scratches, because like if you have good resin wheels, it's not really a problem, right, Russ?
No, not a problem at all. But yeah, you're right. It sometimes I've experienced some of those other wheels where it almost is like
one little speck of
600 or the
let's give it. You got a 600
up.
wheel, and you got an 80 piece of diamond whipping through it. That's in the glue. It's in the epoxy, and you're like, what the
and
hell?
You wonder why you're getting scratches.
Yeah. And
Well,
that's also an issue. I've heard people also have issues on refinishing wheels, where they'll send out a wheel to get refinished. They'll have exactly the same issue. Like, it got refinished at 280, but man, I swear there's like 80 grit in there.
It has to do with the cleanliness of the manufacturing process, because they're like, if they manufacture multiple grits at the same time, and the guy picks up one and he's touching with his hands, and then he goes over and touches
one
another
grit.
Yeah,
one grit's all it takes. Somebody looks like Daryl and Lori is asking if I go from 1,200 to 8,000. The answer is yes. I used to use a 3,000 in there, and I realized with experimentation of utilizing these wheels from 1,200 to 8,000 to 14,000, seem to work the best for me. Again, it's, you know, all up to the cabber themselves and what they're good with. But at times when I was running a 6-wheel setup, I wouldn't even have that wheel in there, and I would go from 1,200 to 14,000 on most things, and you can make that jump.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a question that Irene asked me that she'd posted is how many cabs do you get out of your 10-inch?
So cutting on with a 10-inch blade.
Like how long I think the question is how long does that blade last, Irene? Yeah. Or she's asking how long that blade lasts.
I guess that all depends on the operator. Yeah, you know, I'm kind of laughing about it because I kind of blow through them really quick. And you know, the thing of it is, if you're that patient hobbyist who's just enjoying their time out in that shop, those blades will last quite a while. I you know, I have friends that they replace their 10-inch blade every year. For me, it's probably going to be every 3rd or 4th week. So, but you know, part of that is just me. We're you know, between my son and I, you know, part of it's that whole time's an issue thing, and we try and run stuff as fast as possible through there. And yeah, we're pushing harder. We're knocking more diamond off there than we should be. But you know, that's kind of part of the gig for us.
So how many cabs would you say you get off of cutting on your 10 in the 3 weeks? If it's life is 3 weeks.
Yeah, you know, let's see. Maybe up to 500.
Yeah. So when you look at that, you take the cost of the blade, divide by 500, it's pretty small per cab.
Right. It's exactly that. And that's why I don't really concern myself over burning out the blade a little too quick.
Yeah. Hey, Steve Bergman had a question about getting scratches out. I think we're going to cover that next week, Steve, because that's really, as you go through that final, he says problems getting fine scratches on a flat surface using a cab machine. And I think we can probably pick that up next week. So make sure we bring that up.
There is one little trick maybe I can help them out with on that.
Sure.
Without actually having to do a demonstration. But this is going to be something you want to try with a trial piece and not a good cab. When you're flat up against your wheel, take it off to the edge and bring it in, only at maybe about a 7-degree angle. So you're actually bringing the cab off the wheel and bringing it in, but you're still doing it in a circular fashion. On flat cabs, that is how you can get the full surface. Because otherwise, if you're trying to get a round wheel across the entire of a flat surface, I mean, obviously round against flat is not going to get it all. So, you know, I had an old teacher show me that little trick once upon a time, and it works wonders. So just work off the edge of the wheel a little bit, not much of an angle in, just, you know, just enough, and light touch, and in circular fashions, keep bringing it back into the wheel. And yeah, I think you'll see some good results.
That's great. That's great. We have just one other question that, actually something that John was asking about, John Wozniak, was some cabbing machine have one reservoir for all grits and recirculate the water. Contamination? Yeah, you could have contamination there, right, Russ?
Well, not if you're using all diamond wheels. Now, like what I said, where I have one that's a silicon carbide belt, then I would have to be concerned about contamination. But I isolated that bay to where the water is only to that one particular wheel, and that wheel is hardly ever used. I personally use it when I get something like a polka dot agate or a Brazilian agate that really is going to be tough to get scratches out. I would rather put the wear on a silicon carbide belt than trying to knock out too much wear on, you know, the resin wheels. Again, it's that time and money thing.
Okay, good.
Nice.
Let's see other questions we've got here. John Madison, you're asking about ultrasonic drill machine. Let's actually handle that offline. The team can get you scheduled with me or whoever, and we can actually talk about that. Unless you want to answer a question, I don't know if you're looking to get ultrasonic drill or you had a question about it. And I know let's get a yes in the chat of who wants us to do a webinar where it's like dive down on any like machine question. Anybody want that? Like your machine service issues resolved, like just ask your question and doesn't matter what machine it is. Doesn't have to be Highland Park. It could be any machine. Yeah. So we'll do a kind of ask tech questions because chances are between John, John, you own gazillion machines over the years. We're going to be able to answer a lot of those kinds of like, how do you make your machine work? Questions. With John, I think, John, are you looking for questions on the ultrasonic drill, or you just want to have a conversation offline on that? You can put it in the chat. Or I don't know if John's still online. And then Azalea, yes, a webinar on each of our machines, how to work with it. Yeah, because you own a lot of the machines. So that would be actually really cool for us to do that as well. We'll have to do that over in the studio where we got the machine set up. Okay. And like on opal, cyanoacrylic, yeah, you probably would not want to use cyanoacrylic on opal or a turquoise typically, because you wouldn't want to be using acetone to strip it off. Any other questions that we're missing here, team?
Yes, we have one question here about cleaning a 6-inch trim saw. I'm not sure if you can handle that.
Yeah, I would like to see you clean a 6-inch trim saw on oil. I'm not quite sure what the question is. That was from maybe, it says but I think that might be Mike Contreras. I'm not quite sure what the question means. Why don't we is Mike on? Why don't we just pull him up? There's Mike. Can you hear us, Mike?
Yeah.
All right. What was
Can you
your
hear me?
question about cleaning? What was the question there?
Can you hear me?
Yep, can.
I was just thinking, I'd like to see how you guys clean. I have a 6-inch, your 6-inch trim saw on oil, and what I just got it, and I'd like to know what the best practices for cleaning.
Oh, here the best way to do that is, and John, I would actually like a note to the team here. I'd like to have some really good ball valves. So what I do on my trim saw is I actually have, well, you know, that little fitting comes out that has that plug on the front. I put a ball valve on that, which is a 1/2-inch MPT, just a ball valve I got from Lowe's. And then I can dump it easy. So I can dump my oil out of that. And then what I do is get right down there. If it's really mucked out, I'm going to get down there, and typically I'll just destroy some paper towels and on mucking out any of the sludge out of the bottom of it. If it's not all sludged up, then I'll just drain that into a bucket and then use the paper bag strategy, which I'll shoot a video on. It's been on my list forever, showing people how to make clean your oil bucket thing that which is using a brown paper bag, which are now super easy to get for being able to put your oil into that. And then you're just wiping it out with just paper towel. You know, those 4 screws come off the top, you know, put your tray aside, wipe it out. And then, you know, with the ball valve, it's very convenient because you can just shut it. I use the 6-inch trim saw with oil. I don't use it with water in our shop. I use the PT with water for trimming, but I think, you know, generally running mineral oil in that, I think, is kind of convenient because you don't have to worry about it rusting. It isn't quite as clean, and it, you know, but that trim saw is pretty nice containment of the spray when you're cutting with it. Did I give you some tips there, Mike?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks, dude. Good to see you on here, man. I know you and I have talked, I think, one other time before.
I see a question from Kathy, and I think this has got to be our last question because we're over quite a bit. When Russ draws his shape on the front of the stone, how does he maintain it in the back? She's saying she has to draw it on the back too.
You know, Kathy was one of the ones who actually taught me how to do hearts up originally. You know, that is a good question, because actually it is wrong. And it's not how I teach people. With the heart template, you want to get the double heart template that looks like a sandwich, that you slide the slab in and you hold it tight and you mark both sides. But the way I do it is I'm actually use the template just to eyeball the top of the pattern that I'm looking for, just to see if it fits within the area I'm looking for, and I'll draw it out. But when you're cutting the cab, as you were watching Ben, he was actually, he learned from me, he's actually trimming it out on the front from the top side, but then you got to turn it over and you've got to clean up that back edge, because it is not, because the angle of the wheel is not going to give you the same as what that's cutting on the top. So you're kind of doing some eyeballing there. You know, it's just a matter of getting that feel. And if you're using the double-sided template, however, then you've got a line to go by on the back side. And that really is the proper way of doing it.
Should we make a template like that?
I'm curious about it.
I'll send you a picture.
Send us a picture.
It's old.
Because I mean, well, that's great, you know, but like, you know, making a template like that, I can get the merit of it. It's certainly something. We cut stainless steel and we can bend. It seems like this could be a cool thing to help people.
Yeah, it's the same template, top and bottom, with just a little spacer, so that it just has enough flex to slide your slab in there. So yeah, it's actually the proper way of doing it.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
Send us
Cool.
a picture. That could be cool. All right, guys, let's wrap it up this evening. It's great to have you here, Russ. Thank you so much. You know, if you're looking for cool material, pop up Russ's site, because he's got John had put up all his links, and you all can shoot the pictures. Why don't you get that up there? Come on. Get them all stressed out, right? You know, the QR code, when you scan that, I don't know if you guys know that, but with your phone, you scan it, then you can click on it. It'll open the website up on all those QR codes.
Yeah, and they're throwing the links in the chat too, so you can either scan it or follow the links.
Yeah, but you know, good material. We also have a lot of material. We have a lot of material as well, and certainly, you know, if there's other types of material that you're looking for, we got a lot of also kind of unique stuff like that. Ludawan, although I think we're almost out of the Ludawan agate, which is from China, which is beautiful agates. But and of course, we have a lot of Koyomita, Laguna, things like that as well. So thanks so much, Russ, for you just totally going over the top with the videos and everything. I think it's going to be really valuable for people. And then next week, we'll be on here same time, getting into really all the polishing and the whole process around polishing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. Had a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's great, man. Have a good evening, everybody.
All right.
Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Anything you need to wrap up with, Lizelle?
Yep. So tonight is indeed a very interactive and helpful session for everyone, right, guys? Put it in the chat if you enjoyed it and you got so much value with tonight's session. And again, we see the value and importance of taking the lapidary expertise amongst you. Also, we encourage you to collaborate with us on our next webinar, share more educational and informational content with the lapidary community. So thank you so much again for your time, and do not hesitate to give us your feedback, suggestions, and recommendations. Have a good night, everyone.
And I would say one thing, we are looking for more people. So if you know people or you're interested in sharing your knowledge on to help other people, really inspire them and help them build their skill, we're looking for people, you know, that can do this in a variety of different areas. So That's something that, this is, John and I will facilitate this and put, the infrastructure and the promotion behind it, but we're looking to bring in people like Russ, who really can bring a real great wisdom and understanding and help all of you really be successful in your pursuit of your lapidary, creative visions, things like that.
Yep.
And maybe also, Russ, you'll have your son on here too. Maybe you pull him on.
Yeah,
next
we
time
love
too, 'cause-
Ben joining
Sure.
us. Yeah.
How old is he? He's like 18, 19.
Yeah, he's 18.
He's crushing it. Like, you should be so proud. He's doing great stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, Ben's on.
Oh, is Ben on here? I didn't know that.
Oh, there he is. Look at that.
Pull up Ben. Let's see Ben. I don't know who Ben, but all I can see him with the big goggles and everything, which is really a great example of safety. I say he's saying howdy there.
Yeah, you
pulling
can
Ben
tell
up?
he's totally into. Yeah, is he coming up?
Somebody just go spotlight him and bring him up here.
Yeah, we got to give a shout out to Ben. He's featured in all our videos.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Where are you there, Ben? Did the team find you? There he is. All right, Ben. Great job, dude. I mean, you're friggin' fast. You're seeing your hands moving there like crazy. That's really great.
Technique.
Yeah. Sounds
Yeah,
looks like you're at college or something right now. I think your microphone's not working. I think you're muted there.
Yeah, he looks like he's down at the park having fun for a change.
There we go.
Not
All
in the
right.
shop.
Well, let's wrap it up here for this evening. Thank you all for your participation. And we'll see you all next week, same time, same channel.
All right, see you guys.
Take care.
Thank you, guys.